The wife is raising 3 of her husband's kids with his daughter. Oh my gosh, this is nuts. Joseph became super obsessed with one of his daughters, his 4th child, Elizabeth. He started putting like dirty magazines and stuff under her pillows and just exposing himself to her everywhere, even starting at 11 and going all the way up into her teenage years. Now, Joseph decided he wanted to expand his home by building a cellar beneath the home. He spent days and nights down there building the cellar, to the point that even his wife was not allowed down there because he was down there working. As time went on and he became more and more obsessed with his daughter Elizabeth, and there was a couple times that she like tried to run away and the cops got her and they brought her home, Joseph lured his 18-year-old daughter Elizabeth down into the cellar. While her back was turned, he put chloroform on a rag, put it over her face until she passed out. When Elizabeth woke up, she was in a dark cellar with barely any light peering through, and she was handcuffed and she could not move. She couldn't get out. She did not know what was going on. For a long time, Elizabeth stayed handcuffed in that spot, and Joseph would bring her food down into the cellar. Then eventually, as time went on, he made her leash a little bit longer so she could at least like use the bathroom somewhere down there. Because everybody was looking for Elizabeth, Joseph made Elizabeth write a note saying that she was running away. She was going to go live and be in a cult. They call the police. The police come, they take a report. But because of Elizabeth's previous history of running away and stuff, they just assumed, well, she's an adult now. If she wants to go live in some cult or some religious organization, then that is her choice. Only a few days after Elizabeth turned up missing, the case was closed. The investigation was closed. And days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months, and months turned to years. He had her down there in that cellar. The only time she ever saw anybody was when her father come down there to force himself upon her or bring her some food or threaten her. 5 years of her being down there alone. At 23 years old, Elizabeth turns up pregnant. She realizes she's pregnant by her own father, you guys. She lets Joseph know, hey, I'm pregnant, like I need to go to the doctor. Joseph's like, absolutely not. He brings her some scissors, some towels, and he says, you better figure it out. Down in that cellar, she had no hot water. She had no hand to hold. She had no baby shower. She had nobody to talk her through it. He did, however, bring her a book on pregnancy. She ended up delivering her first baby down in that cellar all by herself. And then afterwards, she had 3 more kids by him over the next 10 years. Now at this point, with her having 4 kids by him, she begged him and talked him into please expanding the cellar. Because this was underground, there was no light, no sunlight at all. No windows, no anything like that. Now you're probably wondering how he got them food and stuff without anybody noticing. Well, the tenants actually said that they saw him bringing food, but they couldn't question him, right? He's the landlord. They don't think anything. And because Joseph had all of these like realty properties and stuff like that, he would go far out of town so he could get a lot of food so nobody would see him. You know, like if he had to get baby food or something like that, he would go in a different town where nobody knew him and bring the food back and bring it down there. In 1993, when Elizabeth had another baby named Lisa, Joseph decided that it was getting too small again down there. It is getting too crowded. He decided that he was going to take this baby upstairs for his wife to raise. So what he did was he put the baby in a box, okay, because the baby was a crier. So he put the baby in a box. He made her write a note. He set the baby on the porch and had his wife find her. And who knows what he did. If he rang the doorbell himself, went around back or whatever. So the wife opens the door. She sees this little baby in the box. She reads the note saying that it's from her long lost daughter that's ran away to be in a cult. And she starts raising this baby. So now Lisa, this wife, is raising her husband's daughter with her daughter. You guys, Elizabeth ends up having a couple more kids and he takes them upstairs too. So now at this point, she is down in the cellar, down below ground. She has 4 kids with her. And now there's 3 kids upstairs being raised by him and his wife. Okay. All the other 2 kids were left the same way on the porch with a note in a box. So now the wife is raising 3 of her husband's kids with his daughter. Oh my gosh, this is nuts. Now how things things started to crumble. When Austria was having their carnival, their yearly festival and carnival, and while everybody else is out, going to the parades and celebrating and eating cotton candy, below ground, Elizabeth, along with her firstborn, who was 19 years old at this time, you guys. Elizabeth, she has a 19-year-old living down in this cellar that has spent all 19 years of her life in this cellar underground. Whoa. The 19-year-old girl fell ill, and she was like passing out, falling in and out of consciousness, and like really, really sick. And Elizabeth was worried, sick about her daughter. Elizabeth begged Joseph to take her to the hospital. And at first he said no. And she's like, what are you going to do? She's going to die. What are you going to do with a 19-year-old's dead body? You can't just go and put that in the furnace. You need to take her to the hospital. And he agreed at this point, because now he's getting nervous, and he made her write a note. He made her write a note saying that she dropped her daughter off again. She was taking her to the hospital. Well, he takes her to the hospital, and the 19-year-old is put on life support. When she's at the hospital, the nurses and the doctors are realizing they have no paperwork on this kid. This is like this 19-year-old just popped out of nowhere. Like, who is this kid? Where did she come from? So they start questioning Joseph, and he tells them the story. My daughter that ran away, whatever. Now, they already kind of knew him a little bit, because you remember how him and his wife was raising the other 3 kids? Well, not only were they raising the other 3 kids, they were getting like government assistance. Well, as they started to be more and more suspicious of this 19-year-old in there, they're wanting to investigate. They're wanting to know, more about her. She's in a coma on life support. So they start deciding, well, we cannot find the mother, right? We can't find Elizabeth. She's in a cult somewhere. We need to find the father. So they started doing DNA. They want to do a DNA match. So they got DNA samples from everybody except for Joseph. And every time they kept going to him, he was busy. He was too busy. He had to do this. He had to do that. So the police got involved, and they started getting suspicious of him. Like, why will this man not give up his DNA? How is he just so busy when it has to do with his granddaughter, right? So Joseph starts getting nervous, and he goes to Elizabeth, and he's like, you're going to have to come out. You're going to have to come out and like just tell them you're the mom and all of this, that, there, and the other. So she comes out of the cellar. He takes her to the hospital, and the police start investigating her. And at first, when they see her, and they see her 19-year-old daughter, they are pale as a ghost. They said that their skin was almost translucent. It was so like white, you could almost see through it. So when the cops get Elizabeth in the room to investigate her, at first she's not saying anything, and the cops are furious with her. They are about to arrest her for child neglect. Okay, you've given up 3 of your kids and left them on the porch, and now you have a 19-year-old here. And so they're questioning her, and she is like stone. She is shut down. She's not wanting to say anything. The longer that they press Elizabeth, she eventually breaks, and she tells them everything. She tells them that she had been locked in a basement for 24 years. Her dad took her down into that cellar and made her his slave, and she bore 7 of his children. At first, they didn't believe Elizabeth. They're like, this story is too crazy. There is no way that this can be true. So the investigators go to the house, and they find the cellar. And you guys, they find the other kids. What ended up happening was Joseph was arrested, and he ended up getting life in prison. And the things that he said afterwards, you guys, was stuff like he was born for this life, and the community was shocked by it. They just could not believe that this woman and these kids were living underground for 24 years, and the wife never knew anything. Now, what ended up happening to Elizabeth and the kids was they went into a mental institution for a long time. She lived in this mental institution with her kids. She has never came out and done an interview. None of the kids have ever come out and done an interview. And I just hope and pray that they are okay now.